But tell me, sorry to interrupt, sorry, viewers, but tell me, how can going to eat a veggie burger rather than one from McDonald's help me to save the environment?
Right, that's a big question. I always get that question. And basically, I'd just like to say this. To make a veggie burger, it takes one amount of grains, it takes a certain amount of water, and it takes a certain amount of land, and it produces this amount of poisonous gases or carbon dioxide.
What amount? This amount?
Well, you know, like let's say this amount. Let's say one balloon full.
Okay, one balloon.
Right?
Right, yeah.
And to produce a meat diet, a meat burger, it takes 16 times the amount of grain to produce that animal.
16 times?
Yeah. What? Yeah. Think about it. An animal, you feed him every single day for a year or so, a couple of years, until he's big enough, and then you kill him and eat him. Think about all the food that he's eaten, and then think about killing and eating him. See how inefficient that process is. So it's 16 times the amount of grain, which is then 16 times the amount of water, which then uses 16 times the amount of land and produces 16 times the amount of poisonous carbon dioxide and greenhouse gases. But that's not the worst of it. It gets worse.
What? How?
Because then you need some land. That's just to feed the animals. You need some land to graze your animals on, and then those animals produce a lot of methane gas, and we've already talked about methane gas. 72 times more potent as a greenhouse gas than carbon dioxide is. Wow. Carbon dioxide is destroying the environment, and methane is going to destroy it 72 times more powerfully.
72 times?
Yeah.
72 times? Mm-hmm. That's a lot of mojo.
Yeah, a lot of killjoy, actually. And anyway, let's go on with this. Those animals produce a huge amount of excreta, dung, which is then pumped into the waterways, which pollutes our drinking water. They produce a lot of methane gas, and they also get sick, so they need a lot of antibiotics, and which you then need another multi-billion-pound industry, like a pharmaceuticals industry. Think about all the emissions and all the people working there and all the factories and transport that that's going to produce.
Right. We did, man. We're filming, man.
We're filming, man.
We
did.
Right,
that's brilliant. Come in then and say hello. Come and say hello. All right, you can stand there, but you have to be quiet. We're just filming something. Where were we, man? Just being interrupted. We can cut this bit out.
All right.
All right. It gets worse. It gets much worse. So basically, you've got 72. You've got the methane it produces. Then there's the unpleasant business of killing these animals, the slaughtering of these animals.
Oh,
and then
that's bad, Juju.
55 billion animals are killed every year.
55 billion. That's much more than whatever. That's much more than people were ever killed in the Holocaust.
Yeah, and there's only actually 6 billion people. There's 6 billion people on the planet, 6 or 8 billion people. Yeah. There's 55 billion animals killed. There's only 6 million. I mean, I'm sorry to say only, but there was about 11 million people killed in the Holocaust. So it's billions.
Wow.
It's thousands of millions of times animals are killed than they were killed during the Holocaust.
It's amazing, man.
Every year. But listen, it gets worse. It gets much worse than this. Then, you've got your animals, you kill them, you transport them to people. You would think that eating that meat and protein is good for you. Right? You would think that is...
Well, that's what I'm told.
You would think that eating that protein is good for you, right? Because you've gone to all this trouble to produce this meat, all this suffering, all this expense, and you would think that is good for you, right? That meat, when you eat it, you think, wow, you get big muscles,
probably
right?
Good, yeah.
Wrong. Absolutely wrong. It couldn't be further than the truth.
What?
Meat causes cancer, causes heart disease, causes strokes, and it causes diabetes. The top 4 killers in the world are number 1 and the top 10, number 1. It's heart disease.
Who is this joker?
Number 2, cancer. Number 3 is strokes. And strokes actually, I think, are number 2 now. They're battling for the first place, and then there's diabetes. Now, every study after study after study has come out, and it's proved that meat eating causes cancer. No single study has ever proved that meat doesn't cause cancer. Maybe if McDonald's did a study, it would probably show that. But apart from that, it wouldn't. And what else was I talking about? So you're eating the meat, you're destroying your planet, right? You're killing all these animals, right? You're getting cancer, but it gets worse than that.
Oh.
It gets even worse than that.
How can that possibly get any worse? I mean, what are you talking about? What?
70% of all grain produced in the United States and 40% of grain worldwide is fed to animals.
No.
Yeah. So
Whoa.
that means every year...
Yeah, but they can just eat grass. They're happy eating grass.
What, Americans?
No, I mean the animals. I mean, if they were left in the wild, they'd just go eat some grass, man. They don't eat grains, isn't it?
No, it's because we're producing those animals. Man,
Oh.
it's not these animals just walking around and just... they're just walking around and we're just going down and killing them, catching them. That'd be bad enough, you know. It's like we're putting them into massive factories and mechanized, and we're killing them in a mechanical way. You know, we're using machines to kill them, and we're keeping them in darkness. And we've got computers that keep giving them just the amount of food they need. We're feeding them with growth hormones, with antibiotics, with all these types of things, and they're suffering so much. They're going crazy because they're locked in the dark all the time. And then we're killing that meat and we're eating that meat. And that meat has got lots of diseases in it. Like mad cow disease, like blue tongue disease, like, I don't know, you name it, they've got it.
My friend had a blue tongue disease.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, and he was just had a blue tongue, man. It wasn't very good. He never...
Yeah, but I'm not talking about somebody getting a blue tongue because they sucked their biro. I'm talking about blue tongue disease. It's a vicious, deadly disease that animals get, and it spreads from animal to animal. So they have to kill all these animals and dump them into dumping.
Oh, well, that's not very good then, is it?
No, I don't think so.
Well, what about dairy then? I mean,
wait a minute.
I'm a young, growing lady Wookie, and then...
Wait a minute, I just want to interrupt you there before we get into the dairy question.
What then?
I haven't finished my thing.
Oh, there's more.
Yeah.
Oh, my God.
Yeah, so it gets worse. I'm trying to tell you, it gets worse. So you've got these 8 million people every year starving to death because there's not enough grain for them to eat because it's all been fed to the animals.
What?
For our consumption. 8 million people die every year because they don't have enough food to eat.
Does that make sense to you? I mean, I come from a different planet.
Oh, wait,
that
it gets
doesn't
worse.
make sense
It gets
to me.
worse.
Gets worse than that. Oh, my God.
800 million people every day go to bed without eating enough food.
No.
And it's worse than that. 1 billion people in the world are classed as in extreme poverty. That means they live on less than $1 a day. $1.
$1. Oh, my God. Oh, my God. You can't even get a 1 penny sweet for $1. Well,
we can't now with the exchange rate.
But I mean, they don't have 1 penny sweets in, you know. But I mean, you know.
$1 would buy you maybe a loaf of bread. One
Really?
loaf of bread.
You wouldn't here. You have to pay about
£1.09.
Yeah,
because,
exactly. More than $1.
The prices of grain have gone up. So the single most fundamental thing that you can do right now, right today,
What can I do?
You can become a vegetarian.
Oh, okay.
And that will contribute 16 times the amount of resources back into the planet to save it. It will contribute in 16 times less greenhouse gas emissions to the earth. The 8 million people every year who are starving to death, they will no longer have to die because there will be enough food for them to eat. And there'll be a huge abundance of wealth in the world because all this grain will be there, which we're not feeding to the animals.
Well, that's great, but like, I mean,